Hello and welcome to another episode of the Veterans Corner. The Veterans Corner is a show dedicated to our veterans, their families, and all those who support the veterans. My name is Chuck Wooden and I'll be your host. We have a special guest with us this evening, Sue Martucci. Sue is from the Connecticut Trees of Honor Memorial down in Middletown, Connecticut. Actually, this is a two-part series. It was great to have you here last week. We talked about the memorial itself. And tonight we're going to be talking about Sergeant Stubby. And you know, without further ado, I'm going to let you jump right into that instead of the viewers listening to me talk about it. Who is Sergeant Stubby and why is he famous?
Well, Sergeant Stubby is one of the most famous war dogs. And he served in World War I. He was found right here in Connecticut. And it's quite an interesting story about Stubby. Private Conroy, J. Robert Conroy of New Britain, was doing his training in the early part of 1917 down around the Yale campus with the 102nd Infantry, the 26th Yankee Division. Yeah. And this little mutt kept visiting the encampment. And they soon adopted each other. He named the dog Stubby because he had virtually no tail. And he became very endearing to all the troops that were training. And they were training to head out on ship to France. That was the start of the US involvement in World War I. So he just couldn't part with that little dog. And tucked him under his arm with some blankets and stowed him away on that ship to France. But while they were on the ship, I mean, he knew he would be in trouble. So he taught Stubby to salute. And when the officers would come by, Stubby would stand up on his haunches and he would give a salute. So of course it melted their hearts and he was allowed to keep the dog. And Stubby earned his keep way over and above. It was trench warfare back in World War I, so in the trenches he killed rats. There were gas attacks. He could smell the gas coming before it hit the troops, so he warned them of an incoming gas attack. He also warned one of the villages in France, Chateau Thierry, warned them of an incoming gas attack. And so eventually, down the road, the ladies from that village made Stubby a really neat little chamois vest and started pinning patches and little medals to Stubby. He was wounded in the war, and he went off to one of the Red Cross hospitals, along with all the other service members that were injured. And while he was there, he brought a lot of comfort to our troops, both in the trenches and in the hospital. And he was very much adored and loved, and he worked really hard when he was there. I mean, some of the things I'm telling you, he was amazing, his talents, and how he protected our troops. So when they came back from war in 2018, Stubby led Red Cross parades. He also was invited to the White House, which was unheard of. He met 3 presidents in the White House. He also was given an award by General Pershing.
Wow. Actually one of the very first service dogs.
He was. I mean, first officially recognized. Yeah. Now, through all the wars, back, oh my gosh, in centuries ago, animals have played a role in helping win wars and serve. From horses to carrier pigeons to elephants, anything they could get their hands on to help. Yeah. So animals have always had their place. But I think Mr. Conroy knew how special Stubby was and worked really hard to get him recognized and get him, you know, officially adopted as our country's first official working dog. Yeah. So when he got out of the service, he went to Georgetown University Law School, and Stubby became the mascot of the Hoyas. He also did a few stints in vaudeville, if you can believe that. So Everything is chronicled in the 2 books that I brought. Ann Bowsam has written these 2 wonderful books about Stubby. This one here is geared more to kids, but an older child. The other one is the full adult version of Stubby's life. Stubby lived a pretty long life. He was awarded lifetime membership in the Red Cross, the American Legion, and the Eddie Glover Post in New Britain.
Yeah.
Various places, if you read the book, you could see his membership cards. And with the YMCA, it said good for 3 meals a day and a place to sleep, something of that nature. So everyone became very fond and loved Stubby. He lived a pretty long life, and when he passed on, Mr. Conroy, and I don't know how he exactly did it, I haven't gotten to that part of the book yet, but he is in the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. You can actually see his remains there.
Wow.
Yeah, with his little chamois jacket, and he actually looks just like this. The little jacket that the ladies in France made for him with his, it's sure some of the medals or pins are from Corporal Conroy.
Yeah.
Started as a private. So that's how famous Stubby is. How did he get to the Trees of Honor Memorial? Talk about a gift. Well, as I mentioned in an earlier segment with you, we talked about the 2 unfinished pieces in the memorial where the 2 plaques would go in the entrance plaza.
Yes,
and one is to honor the military working dogs. So in our committee's research on military working dogs, we kept coming across Sergeant Stubby. Sergeant Stubby is quite a history. If you Google Sergeant Stubby, dozens and dozens of links will come up with fascinating articles about Stubby. And I just was taken with a story about this dog. I know for a while he was in the armory in Hartford for a few years. He went back to the Smithsonian, and he's too delicate now to loan out so that he's permanently housed there. But yeah, I was so fascinated with Stubby, and in my own research, I kept trying to find out, well, what happened to Private Conroy? I guess he became Corporal, so Corporal Conroy. He went to Georgetown University Law School, and anything I looked up on the internet, I was dead-ended. It was a brick wall. I couldn't find out what happened to him. He was from New Britain, served in the war, and went to the University of, Georgetown University Law School. So I gotta find out if he had any heirs, it'd just be fascinating. So I ended up sending an email. It went to the Connecticut State Library, Christine Pitsley, who is known, I don't know, officially or unofficially, as our World War I expert here in the state. And in so being, this year, 2018, is the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. So Miss Pitsley waited about a month. I didn't hear anything. I kind of forgot about it. And one day I got a long email chain, read through it, and then I went, aha, oh my gosh. She put me in touch with the heirs to Private Conroy.
Wow.
I had to read it 3 or 4 times. I was shaking. I was nervous. I was surprised. I was so excited. And when I wrote to her, I said, well, we have this wonderful project, the Trees of Honor Memorial. We're going to be adding a plaque to honor our military working dogs, and we'd like Sergeant Stubby to be center stage on that plaque because he's from Connecticut and all that he did. So she put me in touch with Curtis Dean, Private Conroy's grandson, who lives in New York City, and he also lives in Lyme, Connecticut. So we had a nice little email exchange and some phone conversations, and little did I know that he and his family were trying to fulfill a wish to their grandfather to someday erect a permanent tribute to Stubby somewhere in the country. I caught him at a good time. Yeah. And I think some things in life are meant to be. You just don't expect them, and they happen. Yeah. So he mentioned things like the American Red Cross wanted to, have a location somewhere, and the National Geographic, different big, international organizations. And I said, well, your grandfather was from New Britain, like 1 or 2 towns over from the memorial, and Stubby was found right here in New Haven. Don't you think that Stubby belongs here in Connecticut? And he agreed. But he didn't, I suppose at the time he didn't know where an appropriate place would be to have a sculpture or some kind of permanent tribute to Stubby. So of course I told him all about the memorial, the beautiful memorial that we have that honors our state's fallen. And this was back just this past November. We got in touch. So I invited him to come to Middletown, and I would take him for a walk around the memorial. And so he and his partner came, and we had lunch in Middletown, and we went over to the memorial. Thank goodness there was no snow, so we could easily walk around. It was a nice day. And he was so taken with the memorial, especially knowing that we would have a plaque going in to honor our military working dogs, and also one that would raise awareness and recognition for the silent wounds of war.
Yes. Because
his whole goal, his family's goal, was not only to raise fundraise and erect a permanent tribute to honor Stubby, and also it would be to raise funds to help organizations that train dogs as comfort and therapy dogs for our veterans. So it fit his mission.
There's a big need for that.
It did. It fit his mission. Yeah. So we talked for a while, and he totally wanted to have Stubby in the Trees of Honor Memorial, and it was such a gift, such an honor. And he said that he and his group would fundraise for it, but he wanted it to be to happen and be dedicated by Memorial Day. So I said, well, we don't have very many months to go. Now we're into winter, so not much construction can happen then. So we planned for spring, and it came about.
You got it done.
We got it done. And Mr. Dean and his family fronted the funds to get Stubby there. And he does have a website. It's called sergeantstubbysalutes.org. He is still looking for donors for the Stubby, because he did front all the money in hopes that he would get more sponsors or donors. And people can also purchase a brick that will be placed around. As you see, there's a little walkway around Stubby, and we can
it might
shine.
Be a good time.
Yeah, let's shine that.
It'd be a good time to show the viewers number one, of Stubby. I know the picture may not, the quality, I don't know what's going to look like on the TV. I know this one's blurry, but you'll get the idea. And the bricks are going to go around the circle.
The engraved bricks. Yeah. Yes, it can honor your pet, whether he's here or gone. Just anything you'd like to put on it to be put around the Stubby statue. And in keeping with what Private Conroy taught Stubby to do, he is on his haunches saluting with his little chamois coat on, with all his little pins and medals, and it's very, very detailed. If you walk around the back of Stubby, you'll see the little studs and little buttons and different things that very realistic.
It's amazing to be able to train the dog to do that.
Yes, and Stubby is located just to the right side of the entrance plaza of the memorial.
So it's closer to the museum on that side.
It's right by the road into the park.
Okay.
Yes, so he's close to the entrance plaza, but very visible from all around the memorial. So we're just thrilled and so grateful to have Stubby, who is a little warrior himself, among all our 65 fallen heroes.
That's something. I've heard so much about it. Talking to you. This is actually the first time I've seen a picture, and I look forward to going down there myself again and see how far along the memorial has come, and also to see the statue. Now, is that granite? Is that marble?
Yeah, I believe it's granite.
Granite. The base.
Yes,
We're talking about the base of the.
Yeah, and Stubby was carted from California, shipped in a wooden crate, and brought over to Barnhart Crane Company in Middletown. So we went to see him while he was in his crate. So I met Mr. Dean and his partner over there, and they were so excited. It's important that Stubby was dedicated this year because, as I mentioned, it's the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. But also, this year, an animated movie that was released nationwide was made from the Fun Academy down in Georgia about Sergeant Stubby. And on the table, you'll see, one of the little articles about it. So there was a premiere of the movie down in New Haven with the National Guard, and they helped sponsor it, and the Connecticut State Library, I believe, Miss Pitsley was there. It was a wonderful event, and that happened in April. So I don't believe the movie lasted too long in the theaters nationwide, but it probably will be released at a different format, so people can either stream it or purchase it somehow for viewing.
It'd be great to let them know where the memorial is up here in Connecticut.
Yeah, so the memorial, yes, you may not have watched our first segment last week. The memorial is located, it's called the Connecticut Trees of Honor Memorial. It's in Veterans Memorial Park in Middletown, Connecticut, and it's right behind Palmer Field on Route 66. But you do have to enter the park from Route 3, which is Newfield Street, or Old Mill Road in Middletown. But your GPS will get you there. If you put in Walnut Grove Road, it'll get you to the memorial.
You've got the good-sized stream, small river that separates Veterans Park and Palmer Field.
But if you're at Veterans Park, if you're at Palmer Field, you can access Veterans Park by the footbridge behind
there is a footbridge?
home plate, yes.
Was that always there?
It's been there a long time, Yes, it's a very nice bridge, very wide.
So you can park, you don't have to go up Route 3, you can park.
Well, yeah, it'd be easier just to go into the memorial, into the park itself and park close to the memorial. And also, I'll mention that the Middletown veterans have finally gotten their long-awaited wish to build a military museum, which is located right next to the Connecticut Trees of Honor Memorial on a little knoll on the back left corner. And 2 weeks ago, they added a Vietnam-era Huey helicopter to their display outside of the museum. Museum's not open yet, but you can go up there and see that wonderful Huey helicopter that's been refurbished.
Like I said in the last show, I'm looking to see maybe in a fall schedule here for this show to get Ron Organic on, and he can talk about it because he's the founder of that, isn't he?
He's the president. He's the president. I don't know too much about their their history, but I know for maybe 10 years or more they've been collecting artifacts and different military items that will go in the museum. So the Trees of Honor Memorial, it kind of started the renovation, the resurgence of Veterans Memorial Park in Middletown. In its heyday years and years ago, I've had people tell me there was a petting zoo, an ice skating area, all kinds of things. So it kind of became a little bit more of a quiet park through the years. There's 2 picnic facilities. The park is destined to be, it's planned for renovations and upgrades. There's a swimming pool there that, the city kids use. There's swim lessons and open swim there. So there's a lot going on in the park, and it's a beautiful.
Good destination point.
It is. And more so when the museum opens, for sure. Lots to see and do. And the memorial itself is about a 1/4 mile around the pond. So there are a lot of people that they walk it every day as part of their exercise routine, and it's very serene. It's lovely with a fountain going, the sounds of the water, birds, all kinds of birds singing all the time, birds flying over, almost exotic birds sometimes I catch when I'm there. And we're just beyond thrilled that Sergeant Stubby joined the Trees of Honor Memorial. I mean, it's a perfect place for him to be. It also is wonderful for the city of Middletown and for all our people here in Connecticut to have a place where we honor all our fallen from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan in one single place. Each service member has a flowering tree planted in their name, in their honor. They also have a 3-foot-tall granite monument in front of their tree that has their black laser etched plaque photo.
We actually have a photo of that.
Yes.
We can, number 5 for the photos and show the viewers that. And there's 65 of those located.
Yes, we have 65 from our state lost in those 2 wars. 2 women and 63 men from all branches of service from all over the state.
The last time I was there, I think I don't know if the trees were in place. Maybe the trees were. I know it's been a while.
Yeah, the trees were in place.
Yeah,
yes.
I know the monuments were there.
Yes, then the trees were there. They were put in the same summer. Yes. Yeah.
It's I mean, like I said the last show. I mean, it's a peaceful place just to go and just pay respects to those that gave the ultimate sacrifice.
Exactly.
You know, all from Connecticut.
Right. We match what's on the Wall of Honor at the state capitol, and it's either from Connecticut or they had ties to Connecticut. At some part of their life, they were here in Connecticut, either training, living, going to school, born and raised. Yes. Yes. And Stubby, also getting back to him for a second, besides what he did to help our troops in the war, he also stands as an amazing symbol and inspiration to what we have currently now, so many years later, of working dogs in our military, in our police units, in government agencies. That you go to airports, you see sniffing dogs. Yep. The working dogs are everywhere.
There's more and more of them now.
Yes.
I mean, they're trained to sniff out just about anything. From cell phones to explosives to...
Right, they're so necessary and so, appreciated, and they help in so many ways. So Stubby pretty much epitomizes the importance of the dogs to today, going back to when he was alive and what he did to comfort our troops and help the war effort.
Yeah, it's I think a lot of people don't realize what you just touched on, the importance of them. I mean, from K-9 units with our local law enforcement, may it be local law enforcement or corrections, the military. I mean, how many times do we see on TV? We see photos or live footage of the troops over there in Afghanistan and Iraq in the past, and more times than not, you would see one of the shepherds or some of the other dogs.
And different types of dogs, different breeds of dogs were used through the years, helping with war efforts. So that will, be definitely included in this working dogs plaque.
Now, if I missed it, excuse me, what breed was Stubby?
He was a mixed breed. Bull terrier mix. Bull terrier mix. A little different than what we currently have today from what I've read or been told. Yeah. But probably today would be considered more like a pit bull. But one of the interesting things he did is he's an extreme protector. He sniffed out a German spy in the trenches, grabbed him by the seat of the pants and held on to him until help could come. He also would jump over the lines, and when one of our troops was injured out in the field, he ran out to them and sat right by them until help came.
True companion.
I mean, unbelievable, amazing little dog.
Yeah, it's the stories that you hear of dogs like Stubby and what they've done.
And one of the tragedies of our service dogs that I found out, I'm not a military person. I was never, I never served. So, I do a lot of research so I can try to, get educated on some things. But it was tragic that during the Vietnam War, those dogs were considered equipment and they were left behind.
They were.
And now many years later, our own Senator Blumenthal enacted a lot of legislation to get the dogs out of the war zones and reunited with their trainers or their handlers or with foster homes. So that was very instrumental to, check on his legislation that was passed.
They're no longer considered property.
Exactly. And so there's funding now to help bring them back. And all the programs we have nowadays to train dogs to become comfort dogs, therapy dogs. And you'll meet veterans all the time who have a dog with them. And so at Vets Rock down at Mohegan Sun every year, I meet some veterans down there when we set up with a booth. And one last year had his dog with him, and he was explaining, he says, I couldn't be out in public if I didn't have this dog with me. So
PTSD.
Yeah.
Now, we had touched base a little bit about how people can contribute to the Stubby tribute. We had talked about the bricks.
Yes.
And there is
bricks
a website.
Donations on the Trees of Honor Memorial. You can go there, and it'll take you right to sergeantstubbysalutes.org. You can make your donation and just indicate it's for the Sergeant Stubby Fund.
Now, Sergeant is spelled out.
Yes, sergeantstubbysalutes.org.
Yeah.
To follow that website. It's quite unique.
That's great. I mean, and without you, the public, the contributions are needed to maintain.
Yes.
I mean, we were talking about that at the last show. Speaking of the last show, this show, once again, 25 minutes goes by pretty fast.
And I'd just like to quickly mention, in this state we have two amazing World War I exhibits, being that this is the anniversary of the end of World War I. Down at the Knights of Columbus Museum, it's a free museum, free parking, free everything. I was there, my husband and I, for the first time this winter, and that exhibit is, besides the whole museum itself, it's just phenomenal. In New Haven.
New Haven?
Yes, right off 91. And also the Connecticut Historical Society in Hartford off of Asylum Avenue, right on Asylum Avenue. They have also an amazing World War I exhibit, totally different than at the Knights of Columbus Museum, but equally as good. And the one in, especially I'm remembering better than the New Haven Museum, but Harvard, there are lots of things in there about Sergeant
We need to have you come back for another show because
all right.
we pretty much have no time left.
Okay.
That's all the time we have for this show, another episode. We want to thank you, the viewers. Thank you, Sue, for being back.
Thank you.
One real quick thing is our sponsors. Without our sponsors and our crew that worked this show, we couldn't bring this show to you. Post 209, Unit 209, this is the American Legion in Forestville, Squadron 209, Chapter 209, and it was a very generous donation by Pam Shea. Thank you to our sponsors, our crew, you the viewers, and once again,
thank you, Chuck, for having me. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
My name's Chuck Wooden. See you next time on the Veterans Corner. Good night.